Okay, so first of all, what are your two responsibilities as a manager? Separate from owner, separate from leader, separate from visionary. We're talking about inside the business. Two things. Your first thing is results, okay? I don't care if your people like you. I care whether or not they get the results done, okay? For you guys, for most of you, that means revenue and profit, so you're bringing in revenue and you're keeping your costs down at a reasonable level, okay? Results are first. Folks, everything you read on the internet about management is wrong. Everything you read about making your employees happy is wrong. Your job is not to make people happy. Your job is to make them productive, and when you help them become productive, guess what they'll feel? Happy. But if you skip the productive part and you try to help them be happy by giving them gifts, by telling them how wonderful they are, don't get me wrong, wonderful, a little bit of praise is good. If you do all that stuff, they will start seeing you as a font of happiness. And unfortunately, if you didn't hire well, they'll skip the productive part. And then they'll expect you to do more and more and more, and they'll drive you crazy. And then you'll have to do what somebody said up here they don't like, which is sacking. By the way, if you need to know how to sack somebody, we have a podcast for that. And it's not my favorite podcast, because always remember, if you're having to sack somebody, I love that phrase, sacking. We don't call it that in America. We call it firing, which sounds even worse, of course. But if you're having to sack somebody, remember something. It's your fault. And there is one thing worse than sacking someone, and that is keeping them if they're not doing their job. And that destroys the trust among the team and your results and so on. But don't kid yourself. If you fire them, you're responsible. And with a few podcasts, with a little bit of time, you can actually be good at this. So the first thing you need to do is get results, okay? Don't be afraid to share your results with your team. Maybe there's some parts of the costs that you as an owner, you don't share, but virtually everything else, share it with them. If you want a great business book to teach you a little bit about that, there's a book called The Great Game of Business. I think it's written by a guy named Stack. Really good. Teaches you how to be open with your books. Be open with your books as much as you can within reason. Certainly there's some private stuff about salary, but you can aggregate that in such a way that it should be fine. And the second thing you have to do, this is interesting, you'll love this. We're not far. I don't know if you know this. Management was only invented about 200 years ago. And it was invented a little north of here in Scotland, in textile mills. It used to be there weren't managers, and then we created managers. Guess what happened 6 months after the formation, the first few people that were asked to manage something that they didn't own? Because previously, all management was ownership. What happened 6 months after? It's one of the greatest social movements in the history of mankind. I'll tell you, unions. Management came first, and then unions came second. And the reason why is because managers were told, get results. No matter what, it doesn't matter. That's the only thing that matters. Guess what happens if you leave human beings with a good bit of authority and only one thing to shoot for, results? The answer is tyranny. So modern organizations today say, you can't just go for results. It's not only about that. It's not only about the number. You have to do a second thing. You must do it in a sustainable way, and that means you not only have to get results, but you have to keep the people that got you there. You don't need to keep 100% of them. If you have to fire somebody, you have to fire somebody. Okay? By the way, the solution to not fire anybody is learning how to hire better. Okay? And by the way, I'm just going to say this as an aside. We don't have time to cover it today. If you don't know this, I want to start you on your path to becoming a better hiring manager. The purpose of an interview is to find reasons to say no to people. If you don't do that and your brain starts liking them, the confirmation bias in your brain will kick in, and you'll find all kinds of things to like. And then you'll discover that there were things you should not have liked, but you don't discover them until they're on the inside. And then you have a sacking problem. But again, there's a cast for that.